Good morning, class. Today we are going to be working with apples. We're going to prepare them to freeze to use for lab later on. The two ways we will be using apples in our class, we will be using them in the form of sliced apples to make apple crisp and apple pie. We will also be using grated apple for making apple cake. Today's demo will simply show you how to, get things ready for the freezing process. We won't actually be bagging or anything like that. So we have our apples. It's very important that you wash them and dry them with paper towel. I know you're going to see blotches on this, but don't be alarmed. We're removing the skin. They're donated apples, so sometimes they look less than appealing. To keep the apple from browning once we grate it or once we peel it, we have an acid bath. We've had about a cup of water, to which we've added 2 tablespoons of lemon juice and 2 teaspoons of fruit fresh, which is ascorbic acid. Okay, this is my apple peeler slicer. It's got a rubber base, and what you're going to do is put that on the clean, dry counter, and you're going to take this little lever and flip it over so it sticks. Then you have a lever here that disengages this and allows you to set it back. And I don't know if you can zoom in, but you've got to make sure that this part is in one of the grooves. All right, it's easiest to use very straight apples. If apples are shaped in a really funky way, you're going to have trouble using this. You need apples that have a core that you can line up with this little circle. This is the blade that removes the core. This is the blade that takes the peeling off the apple. I'm going to have the stem out, bottom side, lined up as best as I can with this opening, and then I'm simply going to turn the dial, and what you'll see is you've got a nice peeled apple. And as I said, even though these look funny from the outside, you can see they look fine on the inside. You would remove any excess skin of the apple, and then if there's any bruising, you would remove that as well. And once you've done that, you're going to cut them into halves like this, okay? And then you're going to put them in the acid bath until you're ready to use. And if you see any discolored parts, bad parts, just cut those out. So we're leaving that in the acid bath for now. This is how you would remove the core. If we had composting, we would obviously, put that in our compost, but we do not, so we're stuck with the garbage. All right, here's the next thing I need you to do if you are going to do a second, third, fourth apple, because you're going to be freezing maybe about 5 to 6 cups for a pie. You're going to disengage this and pull it back, and then you start over again. If I want to pick this up to wash it, I take and unhook this, but be really gentle with this because I don't want you to pull that out of place. I do not put this in a dishwasher. I wash it by itself in hot soapy water, rinse it and dry it, but just be careful not to poke yourself or cut yourself with the blades. Okay, we're going to set this aside now, then we're going to talk about what you will do to prepare apples for apple cake. We are going to need to preserve, I think 3 cups. You're going to take your peeler and you're going to peel your apple, but you're not going to core it, okay? We just want to get the ugly peelings off. And as you can see, some of our peeling blades are less than desirable. But I like the idea of you guys using the apple peeler because then you won't waste. I think if you use a paring knife and you're not really careful, you'll get some of the flesh of the apple instead of just the skin. What you want to be careful of when you're peeling this is to peel the apple and not to peel you. So we're going to get this all done like this. And a really quick way to grate it is to get a plate, use this side of your grater, and you're just going to grate all the way around like so until you reach the core. When you measure the apple to put in the freezer bag, it's going to be important that you pack it. I'd rather have you have a little too much apple for your apple cake than not enough. And during the freezing process, what's frustrating is you'll find you'll pack 3 cups in that freezer bag, but when you thaw those apples out, you'll measure it and find out it looks like you have less. Don't be worried about that. I've made this recipe for apple cake for a long time. As long as you use what's in the freezer bag, you'll be fine. during the freezing process, some of the liquids, you know, come out of the flesh of the apple, and that's why you'll see a lot of wateriness on the inside of the bag when you thaw it out. Okay, this too, I'm not really alarmed if that turns brown. If it does, it's no big deal because it's going to turn brown when you bake the cake anyway. So I often have people just pop this right in the bag. But if you needed to, you could put it in here, let it sit for a while, use a strainer to strain any juice off of it, as well as run a little water over it if you're concerned that the lemon juice will make it too tart. Okay, any questions? If not, what I'm going to ask you to be doing is grate and freeze 3 cups of apple, grated apple today. And we'll deal with the slicing maybe tomorrow. Okay.